because I feel like I need to tell this story. And I know my words aren't perfect. I know that it's a little different speaking than it is writing because I can go back and delete when I'm writing. But I need to tell you this. I need to share my story or where it is right now. I'm not going to pretend I've arrived. I'm not going to pretend that I don't have so much refining to do. You know, I'm not going to be perfect until we're totally redeemed and Christ comes back. It's just not going to happen. But I can keep an open mind, be teachable, and continue to learn. So here's where I am right now. And I would love it if you hear me out. I would love it if you ask questions, if you post your objections, anything you want to talk about. So here's where I'm at. This is my weight loss story. And if you've been following me for any sort of time, you know I don't talk about weight a whole lot other than it's just a number, right? And so I'm really talking about weight off of my shoulders, weight off of burdens that I have carried that were not meant for me to carry. Because there are things that happen in our lives, and then there are stories we tell ourselves about those things that happen or the way things look. And one story I told myself for as long as I can remember is that I am the helper. It is my job to make sure everyone is taken care of. And that sounds great, right? Taking care of people and looking after people. And it's great, you know, when I'm at my mentally, spiritually, physically healthy and I help people out of that, it's great. But when I see that as my role and my identity, it caused a lot of problems. I didn't know how to ask for help. So as a child, I don't remember. You'd have to ask my mom how much I would ask for help, but I tried to do things that I was probably a little too young to do because I wanted to help and I wanted to see our situations improved. And as a result of the story I told myself, I found myself in my bed reading, which was my getaway. American Girl books, Babysitter's Club books, those were some of my favorites, and I would hoard food, specifically sweets. I read in Little Women, Jo March made a comment about how it's so much fun to eat her apples and read, and she would take 6 apples at a time, and I'm like, that's a great idea. Except I would just hide whatever candy or treats I could get my hands on, and that was my getaway. So my binge eating issues started as a kid because that was my release instead of working together. Now, that's the story I tell myself. So like, keep in mind, this is from my perspective because to tell you the truth, my sister helped just as much as I did growing up. But I told myself it was my responsibility. Oldest kid, you know, I don't know, just I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of older kids I see tend to take on maybe more responsibility than they're meant to. So binge eating starts. I don't ask for help. I go through school and I have friends, but I don't see it that way. I had a few really good friends in middle school and high school, and that was almost by osmosis. We were together all the time, so I didn't need to tell them always what I was struggling with. I saw myself as the helper, so I was a great listener. I was so good. People loved what a good listener I was, but I didn't know how to be a friend, and I didn't know how to have a friend. I didn't know how to say, hey, that's really disrespectful, when my best friend said something that hurt me. You know, I just and then sometimes I would blow up because I took on all this stuff that I shouldn't have. I didn't know how to talk about things, and you know, maybe part of that's the age, but I kind of carried that into adulthood. I did not know how to have a friend. I did not know how to be a friend, And I had a lot of walls up because asking for help and not being able to do it on myself felt like a failure of who I was. So enter my husband, who is a human being. You know, he makes his own mistakes, but he made such a difference in my life because he saw the cracks. You know, you can only hide it so long when you live with someone. And he gave me permission to be me. And he promised me over and over that no matter what I told him or how I behaved or what came out of me, he would not stop loving me and he would not leave. You guys, for someone who worried so long that if people saw enough of her failures that they would leave, for someone to promise you over and over, and honestly I really struggled to believe it in the beginning, and he just kept promising, and things kept coming out, and he kept asking me questions, and I'd say, I'm fine, and he's like, no, we need to hash this out, we need to talk about it, it's better to talk about it now. He said, I would rather fight through it than not, and not have a good relationship. And oh my gosh, that man, God used him in such big ways. You need to meet my husband if you haven't. He is, like I said, a human, but God has used him to show such boldness and love and freedom in my life and the lives of a lot of other people. So I got married, still having all these insecurities. And now I had a background in fitness, kind of a little garbled. I, was a chubby kid, didn't realize it until my elementary school teacher found it fit to call a careless comment that a peer made about me to my attention. Isn't that great? And she also had us put up autobiographical posters of ourselves, including how much we weighed. Teachers, that is not helpful for anyone. So I wasn't really aware of my body. I didn't really know anything about my body, including like getting your period. I didn't know, how the body changes over the years. And so I was a chubby kid and I got into running, and it was something my dad loved, so I loved doing it with him. I was kind of slow for a kid, but it gave me a good outlet. And then I didn't realize what a good outlet until later, because then we moved to a house where I wasn't able to run, and I was gaining hips. It was around the time I was 14. I was gaining hips, which meant I was gaining some weight, and I had no clue what was happening. And I was freaking out because I was trying to earn my worth. And so I'm freaking out. And I've already kind of stringent on how I eat. I have little like challenges with myself, and suddenly peanut butter is unhealthy because of the fat. And I got really, sorry people, I'm using my phone for this. I got really obsessive about how much I was eating, and it got lower and lower and lower, and my weight got lower and lower and lower. And you know what? I did not get what I wanted out of it. I wanted more attention. I wanted validation. I wanted security. And those did not happen. And so I got tired of it. I said, I feel like I put myself in a box that I can't get out of. And eventually I just lost it, kind of, and I just started binging, and I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to eat anymore. And so every time I would binge, I would feel like a failure. And then I would set up rules for myself, and then I would binge again out of the feeling of deprivation, out of not knowing how to ask for help, out of the shame. It was a really bad cycle. And so this kind of went on for years. It was worse. There's a lot of ins and outs with that, but more details in the story, but it got worse whenever I was feeling less secure. There were two bright spots in all of that that kept me afloat, and one was a verse from the book of John stuck in my head I think I was a senior in high school, and it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but Jesus has come so they could have life and life to the full." And I thought, I want that. That's what I want. You know, like, the point is not to be skinny. The point is not to reach a weight. I wanted fullness of life that Jesus came to bring me. Somewhere along the lines in college, I was struggling again, and I'm in my dorm room, and I thought, you know what? I would rather be healthy than weigh or look a certain number. And I think I meant in my head, because I didn't start eating super healthy, but suddenly there was something that switched that brought freedom. So those things kept me afloat. And as things, during different times in my life, my binging would come back. But the most prevalent thing that came up that I didn't even see was finding my sense of control and security through what I ate.